All right, hello everybody, and welcome back for day 3 of the Photography Daily Challenge. I see a bunch of people in the chat already. Rod, Tim, Dorina, Baldir, David, welcome. Richard and Jan, welcome everybody. Today we're going to take a look at one of the things that's important in photography. It's about composition. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe, and it's my pleasure to be streaming to you live from Adobe here in San Francisco, rainy San Francisco today actually. So day 1 was all about lighting. Day 2 was all about black and white. Day 3 is all about composition. We're going to get into the example that I gave you guys to look at and download, but I've already seen in the in Discord some of the ones that you guys have been presenting and putting up already, and that's been great. As a matter of fact, I'm launching it here in the background so I can go to it later. But so far, so good. You guys have been doing a great job with the daily challenges. I'm impressed with your submissions. I'm even more impressed when you take a look at your own photos and work the challenge accordingly. That just puts a smile on my face because I can see my photos every day. So it's great when I can see what you're doing with your photos. But just a quick recap for those of you who are new, you might be joining us for the first time today. So what you want to do, if you haven't already, is head over to behance.net/daily creative challenge/photo. So the regular daily creative challenge is just daily creative challenge, but the new one for photo and Photoshop is photo. You're going to click the big blue button right here if you haven't already registered. That way you get the notifications from Behance, and you get the notifications that we're going live each day and what the challenges are. And then of course you're going to see the step-by-step how it works, how to join us, how to complete your challenges each day, and the challenges will run from May 13th, which was Monday, through the 24th. And you have till the 26th to submit all the remaining challenges, and we're giving feedback as much as we can throughout the day. So again, day 1 was lighting. You can go back and watch that video if you haven't. Download the image that I provided. If you don't have one, you can go back and watch yesterday's, which was about black and white conversions. Again, you can download the photo that I gave you, but you're more than welcome to use your own photos for the black and white conversions. You can watch yesterday's video, and today, you can get today's image, which I threw you guys a ringer on purpose with today's image, and we're going to talk about that, as a matter of fact, right now. But before we get to that right now, I just want to point out at the very bottom, someone asked me, well, I see that you're reviewing these in this not on Behance, but you're kind of showing them in a different platform. What is that? That is Discord. So if you're not on Discord, you can join right here and actually download the app. It's on various platforms, and you can participate, and it's great because you just sign in once and it syncs across all the platforms. So whether you're on your desktop or on your mobile device, you can use Discord to follow along. So that's what I was looking at the photos here. And again, so for example, this was the photo I provided for black and white conversions. This is someone else's photo. They're using their own. Great job. And just great job all the way around. Like, I have not seen anything that makes me cringe. That's a good thing. So that means that you guys are either taking it to heart what we're doing, or you're at least going in and doing a really good job about it. All right, so let's get to today's challenge, which is about composition. And I'll talk a little bit about that kind of ringer I threw at you. Let's go ahead and go over to Photoshop, and let's go grab today's photo. And this is it. All right, let me get out of the crop tool. All right, this is it. All right, here's the problem with this photo. It's awful. There, I said it. I took it. I can say it. It's awful. This is a photo that I would normally delete. This is a photo that would never see the light of day, and it didn't see the light of day. That's why it's a bad photo. Because even if you're on a beautiful beach and you have some, surfers walking by, some strangers walking by, and they look great, if the lighting is bad, it's very hard to make a good photo out of a bad situation. You can improve it, and I've seen some submissions where you guys have already improved this photo. You've done a great job in doing that, and I even saw some people take this photo and convert it to black and white because the color is so bad. And that's a great use for black and white, is when you can kind of like, preserve it, or basically make a bad situation into a okay situation. But at the end of the day, this is just not a great photo. And I did this on purpose. I gave you this photo because I want you to recognize that Photoshop is great for when you have a good photo or a great photo and you want to make it better. But Photoshop shouldn't, use this sparingly, shouldn't be used to try and make a bad photo good. Yes, some of you did improve this. Yes, you did a good job improving it, but it's a bad photo. So what makes this photo bad besides the lighting? Well, the composition is off, and that's why I gave you this photo, because we can, everyone's giving me all the suggestions on how they can make it better. Yes, you can make it better, and I saw that. But again, recognize when you're out there shooting and it's just not great, and maybe cut your losses and go wait for a better time or a better situation when it is great. Now, I know there's certain situations where you don't have a choice. You're on assignment, you're doing an event, you can't control anything, other than what you're doing in the camera and post-production, and you just have to shoot what you have to shoot. But this is not one of those days. This is a day I just happen to be going out and taking some pictures. And this is a day, as far as this subject is concerned, I should have just put my camera away, because it just wasn't great. All right, so now let's get into the composition part of it. So I need a bad photo of my own to do this one? No, you don't need a bad photo of your own. Let's get into composition. Let's talk about some examples. We're going to come back to this one because we are going to make this one better. But I have a bunch of examples that I want to show you about composition in general. And and before we leave this one, actually, one of the things that separates kind of an amateur to a more professional photographer is that an amateur will center everything. And I'm not saying that centering content or centering a subject is a bad thing, because there are situations where center is the right move. But there's something we call the rule of thirds that gives you an idea of where the interest should lie. And it also involves if there's movement in the photo. Like, in other words, what I mean by movement, if your subject is not just standing still. So in this case, we have two surfers that are walking to this direction, to my right. And they're almost centered. So this is just not only a bad photo, but it's also bad composition. And another thing is, when you're gonna do landscapes, one of my biggest pet peeves with landscapes is a crooked horizon. And I made some of these crooked on purpose so that you would be able to correct that as well. So the horizon almost looks straight, but it looks like to me that it's going up slightly to the right, just a little bit, just enough to annoy me. All right, so I said I was gonna go to another photo, but now that I'm on this one, let's go ahead and deal with this one. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and grab the crop tool. And if your crop tool is on any kind of settings and like it came up in a very defined way, just go ahead and clear those settings out. And you wanna get back to ratio. So you wanna get back to ratio. So that might mean you have to escape out of it and then click again so that you get back to the entire photo. So with ratio and no settings, that means I can crop freely. I can move the sliders, move the move the handles around any way I want. And when you're looking to compose a shot in general, no matter if it's a good shot or bad shot in this case, what you should be looking at is, you should ask yourself, what's the subject of the photo? Is the subject of the photo the beach? Or is the subject of the photo the surfers on the beach? And I would dare say, since the beach looks so bad and so awful, that the subject has to be the surfers. That's where the interest will lie. In other words, you ask yourself, if the surfers weren't there, would anyone care about this photo? And the answer is no, because the photo's that bad. Did I say it was bad? I think I said it a couple times. All right, let's go ahead and do this. The other thing that you want to look at on a landscape photo is, especially when you have a foreground, which is the sand, you have a midground, which is the water, and then you have the background, which is the sky. You have to ask yourself, what's the best looking part of the photo? And right now, if I had to pick between those two, the sky and the sand, The sky is the worst because it's just flat. There's no clouds. You can add color. You can do all that, and I saw some of you do that. But it's just really a flat, drab sky. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to put any emphasis on the sky because there's nothing there to look at. We really want to put the emphasis on the surfers. Now, when I bring up the crop tool, it should by default bring up the rule of thirds. So, for example, yes, my disdain is for your benefit. When you bring up the rule of thirds, it basically brings up this grid of 9 rectangles. And there's an intersection here, an intersection here, an intersection, I can barely see it, but it's probably somewhere in here, and an intersection in here. Now, those intersections, for the rule of the rule of thirds, is that you want to put the interesting points of the photo at one of those intersections, if not more. So in this case, I would do this for this photo. I would say, the sky is not important. And since they're walking, we don't want them to walk out of the frame. We want to give them some room to walk. And we would do something like this. Maybe a little higher, just to get a little bit of the sky and a little bit of that. And we would also rotate it so that we can straighten out that horizon. So if I were going to recompose this shot, it would look something like that. And I probably wouldn't even need that much foreground. I'd probably reduce the foreground a little bit as well. And again, you can move the photo around to keep it in the rule of thirds area. Now, if you don't get it dead on the intersection, that's okay. Like, no one's gonna bring up the crop tool and say, oh, you were 2 millimeters off, you're not on the intersection. It's okay, you're aiming for that to be the focus. Now, they're walking this way, so I want them to have room to walk. In other words, a bad composition would be this, where they're gonna walk out of the frame. Same thing, there's still a point of interest, but you have to look at what your subject is doing. And is your subject gonna walk out of the frame, run out of the frame, drive out of the frame? Then that would be a bad composition crop. So we wanna go the other way. We wanna give them room to walk. We wanna put the interest there. We wanna always have foreground, midground, and background. And you wanna put the most interesting part in the foreground. Or, I'm sorry, you wanna put the most interesting part at the intersection for the rule of thirds. So if I were gonna crop this photo, it would look something like that. And then if it were redeemable, I would go in and start redeeming it with all the techniques we've learned so far. And I'm not even gonna waste time redeeming this. Let's move on. All right, so let's look at some other examples. Well, I said that we typically don't wanna center things unless center's perfect. That's a situation where I couldn't picture this dog running towards the camera any other way. We could move it off to the side, but it just looks so good. My attention just keeps going right to the subject. And so we have the foreground, which is, they use this, now it's not my photo, this is a stock photo. So they use shallow depth of field or even some blurring here because it kind of looks weird with the grass. Then you have the puppy, and then you have the sky. So this is a case where center works. Center works great here. Now again, you could click and you could say, well, if I were to do something like that, would that be okay? And I were to crop it and get the point of interest at that intersection? Yes, it would be okay, but there was nothing wrong in this case with center. All right, next. Let me give you another example. Now, I'm gonna open up a few of these. I'm gonna open up this one. Oh, let's get out of the crop first. There we go. Let's open up this one. I'm gonna open up this one. I'm gonna open up this one. I'm gonna open up the last one. So before we get to that one, let's go here. All right, so again, following that rule of thirds, putting the tower at close to that intersection in the upper right corner, is this a good composition? It's okay. I shot it different ways to see what I like best. Would I complain about this one? No, because my eye keeps leading away from the left side to the tower, because the tower is the most interesting part of the photo. You have other interesting things here. You have foreground, midground, and sky, but my eye keeps going over to the tower, so that's okay. Now, if we look at the next one, this is not good because it's dead center, not in a good way. You have too much sky, or I shot this. I have too much sky in this photo, and it would be okay if I had too much sky if the sky was awesome. So if there were awesome clouds and awesome sunset and awesome rays going on, the sky would be great here. But this is just a blah sky. And yes, I could do things to make it better in Photoshop, but we're talking about composition from a photography standpoint. So not a great composition from just putting a tower dead center that way. Putting the tower dead center far away, not great, because you're distracted by too many other things at that point. Like you keep looking down here at this building, like what's all this down here? Because that's the closest thing to you. And it's just, you're gonna keep looking at things that don't matter. So not a great way, not a great place there. Would be a great photo for, okay. All right, so last but not least, this is what I ended on. This is the shot that I actually posted on my Instagram. Now, good light, shot at night, sunset, long exposure to bring out some of the details. Actually, that's not the shot because I actually removed the crane, but that's the shot I started with. There's a crane here in the way. That's a distracting element. We have a whole segment on that coming up, but we're gonna get rid of that. But if you go look at my Instagram at Terry Lee White, this will be the shot you'll see without the crane. Tower's in the center, but it's okay because the rest of the photo leads you to the tower that's in the center. Not too much of the sky, even though the sky is okay. A lot of the foreground, because the foreground's interesting, but you keep going back to the tower. All right, let's look at another example. And let's go here. All right, let's do 2 more crops before we're out of time. All right, so this is a product shot. And oftentimes when you do a product shot, well, your customer, your client probably wants to see the whole product. Like they want to see the wheel, the tire, the name on the tire, the logo, so forth and so on. They want to see all that. Now, if you're shooting it for your client and this is going in a catalog, and dead center is okay in that case because it's about telling the story of what the product is. But if I were shooting this for my own interest, meaning I'm going to put this on the wall, I love this shot of a tire, I'm going to put it in maybe in my garage, then this would not be the composition I would use. This is what I would do. And this is what I actually did. So I would start bringing in the handles. And I would do something like that. Just enough of it and just enough interest right there. And actually more. That's not enough. Hold on. Go back to crop. Click. It's not enough yet. I actually did more than that. I think I ended up somewhere around here. A little bit more of the bottom, a little bit less of the right. There we go. Ended up somewhere like that. And of course I cleaned it up and fixed the lighting and all that. But that, and by the way, I converted it to black and white because that's a product that doesn't have any color in it anyway. So it gets rid of the beige tone behind it, gets rid of the red sticker underneath the tire. And I don't know what this black mark is, but that was gone in the final shot. Because you ask yourself, does this show you what the product is? Yes, it's a wheel. Shows me the brand name of the wheel itself. I don't see the brand name of the tire unless I look down here, but I can see that enough of it's Michelin. I don't need to see the rest of the tire to know it's there. I know the rest of the wheel is gonna finish out the round part. But this is a more interesting composition than just a tire sitting in the middle of a white background. So think about creative composition when you're doing this kind of work. So one more thing, and then we're gonna get into one of my favorite examples. Here's another example where puppies are running towards the camera and they're off center because they used a little bit of sunlight or some kind of blur or lighting there. And your eye automatically goes to the brightest spot, but since that's not interesting, you come back to this. So again, here's an example of composition running towards the camera, enough space for them to run on the left and right side and not dead center. All right, last but not least. And this one is, there's nothing wrong with, again, this one being in the center. I don't love it in the center, but there's nothing wrong with it. But what I do want to do is, let's say I wanted to post this on Instagram. When you post a portrait on Instagram, if you want to see the top all the way down to the bottom without cutting anything off, it needs to be in the 5:7 aspect ratio. So now we're going to get into a little bit more of how the crop tool works. Why? It's just the way Instagram works. Landscape, you can hit the double arrows and it'll zoom out and pretty much take any landscape. But portraits, even if you click the zoom button, it still will start cutting things off if they're not 5:7. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to the ratio and we're gonna choose 5:7. So luckily there's a bunch of presets right there in the crop tool. So you can choose the one that works best for you. And for Instagram portraits, tall images, 5:7 works perfectly. Here's the problem though. At a 5:7, if you shot too tight, like you were too close to the subject and you didn't leave enough headroom or foot room, now you gotta make a decision and end up cutting something off. And so while you could crop it in Instagram and it would look just like this, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're getting rid of part of your photo that you probably wanted to keep. And I've seen all kinds of examples where people will use apps to add more background and all that, but you could do that right in Photoshop very easily, as a matter of fact. So here's what I want you to do. In the upper right-hand corner or upper middle of the dialog box here, or the control panel here, you want to hit Content Aware. So we're going to do a Content Aware crop. Because cropping in Photoshop is not always reducing, it's also expanding the canvas. So because I constrained it to a 5:7, and because I said use Content Aware, I can actually go the other way. I can say add some more space to it. Now that left side of the photo doesn't exist. And I can even say, you know, add some more to the bottom or add some more to the top if I wanted to, and I can move this around. And let's say I really want to make her a little bit more off center. All right, so let's do it that way. Actually, you know what? I take that back. Let's just go there. All right, let's do that. So when I hit OK or commit, it'll take a second and, oh, did I not do Content Aware? Sorry, undo. I thought I did it, thought I checked it. I did not have it checked. There we go. All right. Oh, it unchecked it. There we go. That's why. Why is it unchecking it? Why is my Content Aware unchecking? Hold on. That's just a weird thing to be happening. There, Content Aware. With that, I've done this a million times. Why is Content Aware unchecking? What that should be doing right now is adding more space to my photo. I don't know why it's not. Photoshop, you're failing me in front of hundreds of people. Not a good thing. All right, let's do it. Nope, it's for whatever reason on this photo not working. All right, let's close this photo. Don't crop, don't save. Let's go back one more time. I'm gonna try it one more time. We're almost out of time. Can't spend too much on this, but what it should do, and what it's done for me every other time except today, is add more space. Yeah, I don't know why, but Content Aware, for whatever reason, is not working the way it should today. Let me try one more thing. So weird. Oh, it's doing it. Okay. Finally, it decided to do it. So what it's doing right now is it's figuring out what that space should be, and it added it to the left side. So it took the background and Content Aware filled it into the crop area. I don't know why I had to add an extra layer to do that. Normally I don't, but there we go. It still worked. All right. Yeah, it shouldn't matter. I've done it a million times. We still set the background, and it works every time except today. But anyway, it still did it. All right. But there we go. So that way you get your 5:7 composed just the way you want it, and you've got the ability now to post it as is with no cropping right on Instagram. All right. See if I missed anything here. We're just about out of time. Excuse me. We're just about out of time. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Okay, I think I got everything there, and hopefully you got something out of the composition session today. Go compose your photos, go do different things. We are done for the day, and of course, once you're done, you're gonna export your photo out as we've shown yesterday and the day before and the day before that. Post it on Behance, use the keyword PS Daily Challenge, and also feel free to post it on Discord as well so we can check out your entries. And with that said, I am out of time today. Stay tuned. What's coming up next is we're gonna do more Photoshop with Eunice Eunice Wu, she's going to be here doing the regular Photoshop stream. And actually, I'll be on the Lightroom channel on Facebook in about 36 minutes. So if you want to join me there, you can as well. All right, so with that said, cheers everybody, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.